I'm live, man. I am live. Fight day. Canelo versus Yildirim. You're tuned in to Calix Boxing 2.0. Hit me up on Twitter, Calix Boxing 2. I'm going to let some people get in here before I start this thing. It is Saturday. We're about, what are we about? An hour or two before the actual card starts. And I'm going to pull up the betting odds on my phone because I saw the prop bets were finally released for this fight. Finally released as I went on there earlier. So I wanted to give what I'm betting, full disclosure, full transparency. My bet for tonight. I'll be giving that in a minute. Let me try to log on to my betting site before I do that. I see a couple of y'all coming in. So just give me a minute. I'm going to pull up these betting odds and give people some time to come in here and just let people know my overall thoughts about what's going to happen tonight. And full transparency, full disclosure, who I will be betting, what I will be betting tonight, because I'm pretty sure everybody knows who. It's just a matter of when. It's not a matter of who tonight. We all know Canelo is going to win. It's just a matter of how and when it happens, how it happens and when it happens. And I told people on the, you need me to open that? You got it? I told everybody on my breakdown of this fight on Tuesday night how I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen early in the fight, and I think it's going to happen by either an uppercut or a body shot, because what happens is Yildirim, and it's one of the reasons he got this fight at this point, sandwiched in between other fights, is they want a quick night for Canelo. Sandwiched in between these fights. They don't want Canelo having a tough night and a rough night, entering Canelo by terrifying KO in 3 is what Retro Spirit says. I'll be giving my official prediction on when it's going to happen and my how I'm betting this fight in a minute, but I tend to agree with you on that. The real bet is the over and under on this fight is at 5.5. Now, you say it's at 5.5. My betting odds have it at 4.5 right now. And let me double check that. Yep, the over and under on this fight is 4.5 on justbet.com is what I use. Until they make gambling legal finally in Louisiana, that's what I use. Justbet.co. And I'm looking at the over under right now is 4.5. Now you can tease it. You can do alternative rounds. The over under is 4.5 with a minus 112. So what that means for people who don't bet is if you bet the over, say, and it hits over, you have to bet $112 to win 100. That's what minus 112 means. Now, the reason I say Canelo is going to win this fight early by either a uppercut or a body shot is if you watch Yildirim fight, the best way I can put this guy's style for people who haven't seen him fight is he is an Arthur Abraham without power. He walks in like this with that high guard. And his plan is to take shots and block them with the high guard and then go on offense and walk you down. He's not a guy who mixes offense and defense. He's not a guy who's going to counter. But he goes into that high guard here. And if you watch him fight, the fight he was knocked, when he went overseas, he was knocked out in 3 rounds. God, who did he fight in that fight? It was his first title fight. And then the second title fight was against Darrell. He failed both times. And this will be his 3rd title fight, and he'll fail in this one. And it's no disrespect to the guy. He's just a limited fighter. But I agree. Retro Spirit says uppercut all day. He'll walk into everything Canelo throws. It may actually look like the Kirkland fight. Kirkland is a guy, the reason that knockout was so terrifying is he is a guy who opens up, throws a lot of punches. Although I agree with you that Yildirim's going to get knocked out, I don't know if it's going to be as ugly and as a massive of a knockout, terrifying as the Kirkland fight, because he's not going to open up as much. This is going to be one of those ones. God, who did he fight? I got to pull it up real quick because it's bothering me. But he was in that fight, and then he was blew through him in 3 rounds because all he did was walk in straight line, straight forward with that high guard, and your boy just kept catching him with uppercuts, and then he would go downstairs to the body, throwing combinations. And what do we know that Canelo loves to do, and Canelo is great at, one of the best in the sport, is those combination punches. He's not afraid to throw not only 2, 3, 4, but 6 and 7. It's not Liam Smith I'm thinking of, and it's not Rocky Fielding either. It's God. Let me pull up the box rec real quick. I can't get it. Can't get it to pull up. But anyway, that's not near here nor there. But he was fighting out in Europe, and he was blown through in 3 rounds because all he does is walk you down straight forward with that high guard, and then you can catch him in between that with the uppercuts. And Canelo throws beautiful, powerful uppercuts straight through the guard. And that's what's going to happen here is he's going to catch Yildirim straight through the guard with those uppercuts. And then if those don't get him, what that's going to do is soften him up upstairs. He's going to go even higher with the guard and be focused upstairs. And then Canelo is going to start throwing those body shots on the outside. So upstairs is going to be on the inside. He's going to go through that guard with the uppercuts and then throw the body shots. So I don't know if it's going to be the uppercuts that get him or the left hook to the body is going to get him. But Yildirim's going down early, in my opinion. So let's look at these betting odds. There's nothing here as far as value, as far as betting the fight in the fight odds in itself. And that's what I said Tuesday night when I was breaking this down is the betting odds have it Yildirim plus 240, plus 1240, excuse me. That was Eubank Jr. Thank you. God, that was going to bother me this whole podcast. Thank you. Eubank Jr. stopped him, and that was his first title shot. And he was completely outclassed by Eubank Jr. because all Eubank Jr. was doing was catching him with those uppercuts as Yildirim was trying to walk him down, coming straight forward. And he ran through him in 3 rounds. And Canelo is going to do the same thing, except he has even more punching power and he has even more precise combination punches, especially when we're talking about to the body. And he throws even more combinations than the Eubank Jr. Let's see, we got R2, can't remember, stopped him early, though. Thought you were talking about Canelo opponent. No, I was talking about Yildirim. But plus 1240. Look, if you believe that Yildirim actually has a shot here, and it's gonna have to be by knockout because Canelo, he's just not gonna win by scorecard against Canelo. If Triple G couldn't do it, if Triple G couldn't get the benefit of the doubt on the scorecards with the judges, a guy like Avni Yildirim is not going to get it. Any close round is going to go to Canelo. So I just don't see any possible way, and unless he completely outclasses him through 12 rounds. But even Mayweather did that and got a draw on one of the scorecards. So a guy like Yildirim's not going to get the benefit of the doubt on the scorecard. So it would have to be by a stoppage or knockout if he's going to get the win tonight. So I don't see any value in throwing any money down on Yildirim plus 1240. Usually I would say, look, if a guy is that heavy of a dog, throw $20, $30 down on him that you have to lose. But I don't see any value in doing that here. And I don't see any value in throwing money down on Canelo minus 5,000 because you have to bet $5,000 just to win 100. Unless you're a millionaire or something, you have $1 million to throw down on this fight just to win a couple thousand. But to throw 5,000 down to win 100, just there's no value in that either. The value, as my man Retro Spirit said at the beginning, is in the over-under or in the betting per particular round in this fight because there's no value in the draw either. I think the draw is, let me pull that up real quick, 30 plus 35.50. And usually in a close fight, a fight that you see could possibly be close, stop trying to shine on my podcast. You would maybe throw money down on the draw just to see if it sticks, but I don't see that happening either in this fight. So there's no value in any of those. It's going to be on the over-under or in the particular rounds. Or you can bet quarterly or by the thirds. I'll break that down right here. Let's see what we got. Some comment. I'm just looking forward to seeing what Canelo decides to do after this. I'd like to see him get the Charlo fight over with. You think it'll be it? No. I'd love to see that too. But I think he said that he's staying at 168. He wants to unify. I think it's going to be Billy Joe Saunders. And I wouldn't be surprised, although I would lean against it, I wouldn't be surprised if they announce some sort of fight with Billy Joe Saunders tonight after the fight. But I think that's coming soon. A fight with Billy Joe Saunders announced for the beginning of May, Cinco de Mayo weekend. That I heard he wants to fight again on Mexican Independence Day in September and another unification fight. But he wants to become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world this year, is what I'm hearing. So this won't be slightly competitive. I agree. This is a glorified sparring session tonight, but it is a Canelo fight weekend, and it is. You give him the benefit of the doubt because it's at least he's staying active. You have guys fighting once or twice a year, champions. He wants to fight 4 times in 2021, 5 times in 12 months. So this is sandwiched in between December and May. So if he wants to fight again in February, in between those, you give him the benefit of the doubt to fight is mandatory, but it won't be slightly competitive. You're right. And it'll be a glorified sparring session tonight. Yep, it's being announced after the fight. I hope. It would be nice to see Canelo versus Billy Joe Saunders announced after the fight. They've been saying that if anybody at 168 will give him trouble because of the lateral movement, it'll be Billy Joe Saunders. But that's for another day because I think that he matches up well against Billy Joe Saunders. That's just what I think. But more on that for another day. It's being announced after the fight. Let's see. It was like Arroyo plus 650 before it was canceled. Billy Joe Saunders is so unreliable. I agree. You never know if you're going to have a fight with Billy Joe Saunders until Billy Joe Saunders actually steps in the ring. So just because a fight is announced doesn't mean we'll actually get a Billy Joe Saunders fight on fight night. But let's look at these odds. You can tease the over-under to 5.5. You can do that. You can tease it to 3.5. The odds switch up a little bit, but let's look at the actual odds. Here's how I like to bet this fight, and here's how I'm betting the fight. You can bet, when will this fight be won? We know who's going to win the fight, but when will it be won? You can do quarters here. Will the fight be won in rounds 1 through 3? Plus 156. All right, so if you think Canelo is going to win this fight in the first 3 rounds by stoppage or knockout, you can bet 100, win 156, or whatever one you want to bet. But plus 156 are the odds. So you get more money back by 1.5 plus a little sum if Canelo wins this fight in rounds 1 through 3. It goes, it's a little wider. If you think that, as the fight goes on, if you think that Yildirim's going to last a little bit, and it goes 4 through 6. If it's stopped in rounds 4 through 6, we got plus 176. If you think Yildirim will last even longer, 7 through 9 is plus 405. So if you think this would be the type of fight where Canelo's trying to give himself a little work, get some rounds in, Yildirim's maybe a little tougher than we thought, has a better chin than we thought. Look at those odds. All right, so that would be plus 405. If you think this fight will be won in the championship rounds, 10 through 12, plus 1,200. If you think it's going the distance, plus 725. So if you think that Yildirim is a tough cookie, he's going to last a little longer, plus 725. If you think Canelo wins by decision. Now, if you want to do this by thirds, you want to give yourself a little more leeway if you're not sure if there's going to be a 3rd round stoppage or 4th round stoppage, and that's where I'm at. I think they hit the over-under perfectly on this fight. 4.5 is where I think it should be, because when I was analyzing this fight before the betting odds, before the prop bets were dropped, I was thinking somewhere between 3 and 5. So 4.5 is right there sandwiched in the middle. So I think that's perfect. But if you want to give yourself a little more leeway, you can bet in thirds, rounds 1 through 4 plus 105. The odds go down a little bit. You get a little bit less of a payout. But if you're not sure if it's going to be 3 or 4, that might be your bet. Rounds 5 through 8 plus 170. Rounds 9 through 12 plus 750. Full distance, once again, 725. Now, if you want to split it in half, rounds 1 through 6 is minus 245. Now, your odds go dramatically down. But if you're not sure if Canelo is going to get it done in 4 or 5, you can bet rounds 1 through 6 or rounds 7 through 12 plus 295. Ultimately, what I'm looking at is, as far as value, is the actual. I like rounds 1 through 4. My odds go down a little bit, but like I said, I'm not sure if Canelo's going to get it done 3, 4, 5. So I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway. My odds go down a little bit, but I'm betting. I'm putting money down on my bet tonight is rounds 1 through 4. Canelo's going to stop this fight in rounds 1 through 4. I like that, and I'm getting plus 105 for my money. So I put down 100, and if he gets it done, I win 105. That's my bet tonight. So I like rounds 1 through 4 for Canelo tonight. I think he gets this fight done. I think if Eubank Jr. does it in 3 rounds, I see the same thing for Canelo. I just don't see Yildirim handling the body shots well. I hear it's going to be a good crowd tonight in Miami. So I think Canelo's going to have the crowd behind him. It's going to be the first really big crowd fight that we've seen since all this started. So let's look at some of these comments I'm pulling up. Give me a minute. I'm reading some of these comments. Canelo kills everyone 168 South other than Benavidez, in my opinion. I tend to agree with that. The only person I would add to that list with Benavidez is Triple G still. And I'm going to drop another video about that because there's this notion out there that Canelo just dispatched of Triple G, when if you look at the body of work through 24 rounds, they were what and what with each other. I mean, that was about as even as it got through 24 rounds. So I would still throw Triple G in the mix as guys who could possibly give Canelo trouble 168 and South with Benavidez. I think he handles Billy Joe Saunders well. Like I said, I don't think the lateral movement, I've said this multiple times, bothers Canelo as much at this weight and at this point in his career that it did with shorter guys earlier in his career. These guys at 168, although they have good lateral movement, a Billy Joe Saunders doesn't move as quick as an Erislandy Lara did or an Austin Trout did when Canelo fought him earlier in his career, when lateral movement did give him a bit of an issue. But these guys now, I don't think they're going to give him as much of an issue, and they have longer bodies for Canelo to dig into, and Canelo does well against taller opposition. Triple G still there. It's a good point. They split. Triple G won the first fight. That's how I had it. I had Triple G winning the first fight, edging it out. I had Canelo edging out the second fight. I know people who had Triple G winning both fights. And I know people who had Canelo winning both fights. And I know people who had a draw. But both fights were disputable. So this notion that Triple G has been dispatched of and we should just move on from it, I don't buy that. I don't buy that narrative. I think Triple G, you still have to throw him in the mix. It all depends on how he looks when he comes back. He's up there in age. I tend to agree with, I think that Canelo would beat him in the third fight. It may be easier than in the second fight because Triple G is up there in age and he is a little older. He's pushing 40 right now. The only way BJ Saunders can win if he gets his inhaler back. Billy Joe Saunders just it's here, man. It's here. He has all the ability in the world, but it's here. Will he actually show up in that fight? Let's look at these comments. Is Canelo former sparring partner? He might know how to fight Canelo and survive longer. These are all valid points. And that's why it's tough with the rounds, but this is the only way to bet a fight like this. We all know Canelo's going to win this fight. I mean, we don't know until it actually happens, but we all have a very good idea that that's what's going to happen. but it's the rounds. I'm betting rounds 1 through 4. I'm banking on Canelo getting in there and wanting to get this over with and wanting to look entertaining against a big crowd down there in Miami. I'm banking on him just wanting to get this done before his May fight and not wanting to play with his food. I don't think he needs to get rounds in. But if you think he needs to get rounds in, you think he's going to try to make this a little bit of a sparring session, get some rounds in. Maybe he's facing a guy who's a little tougher than we expected. Then maybe you look at rounds 5 through 8. Maybe you look at rounds 6 through 12 in the betting odds. But I'm once again going through 1 through 4. I think Canelo gets this done within 4. I'm looking forward to how sharp will he look. The entertainment value of this fight. I'm looking forward to the crowd being back. All these things, the atmosphere, and what happens after the fight. Who will Canelo call out? Will a fight be announced with Billy Joe Saunders? These are all things I'm looking for tonight. I'm not looking for one of those nights where a shocking upset is going to happen. I just don't see it in the cards tonight. I don't think Canelo is a guy who's going to be caught off guard at this point in his career. I think he's a guy who is a professional, consummate professional. He's been in the ring. He's been in the gym constantly the past couple months. He didn't take much of a time off from his December fight. I don't think he's going to take any time off, it looks like, in 2021. He's going to be in the gym a lot. I think he's a guy who's concerned about his legacy. He wants to be a guy who leaves a big shadow, a legacy. So I don't think a Yildirim is going to stop him. Just don't see it happening. So maybe I'm not showing the guy Yildirim as much respect as I should, but I think that's what we're going to get tonight is a big night for Canelo, a resounding knockout or stoppage victory. I think he saw what Oscar Valdez did last weekend, and maybe he wants to top that. We'll see. But what's going to happen, how it's going to happen is he's going to cut through that high guard with uppercuts and then go down to the body. So it's either going to be the uppercuts that get him or the body shots. And I like it within 4. So I'm betting 1 through 4 tonight in my prop bet. 1 through 4, extremely off topic, but who do you think Pac gets in there with him next? I'm anxious to see Crawford or Spence will become a reality. I hope so, man. I hope Crawford versus Spence happens. As far as Pacquiao, we've talked about that over the past couple of weeks since he announced that he's coming back. But I tend to think that the return of Pacquiao is going to be against a guy like Danny Garcia or Mikey Garcia, somewhere like that. He's been off for a year and a half. And at 40-something years old, maybe there's ring rust there. So maybe they'll take an easier fight before the big fight. But I just don't see it being a Terrence Crawford. I don't know if the money is there right now to get that fight made, but I hope so. I hope it's a Terrence Crawford. I hope it's an Errol Spence, somewhere like that, somebody like that. I would love – that's who I want to see Pacquiao in there with. The top guys, one of those 2 top dogs at 147. If we can't get Crawford versus Spence, why not make Pacquiao versus Crawford or Pacquiao versus Spence? I hope so. That's the fight I want to see. But I tend to think it's going to be against one of those second tier guys at 147. And I don't think it's going to be one of those crossover fights either against a Conor McGregor or something like that. I don't see that either. I hope not anyway. I hope not. But I think it's going to be against one of those top second tier guys at 147. But just to recap, man, let me get one of these. I still think Pat can beat all of them. I think he can beat everybody at 147 except those 2 top dogs. But I still make him a very live dog against those two guys. I would make Terrence Crawford a 2-1 favorite against Pacquiao at this point, and Errol Spence Jr. as well. And I see Crawford versus Spence, a toss-up fight, a pure toss-up fight. I would give the slight edge, me personally, give the slight edge to Crawford against Spence. I think Crawford would win that fight. I like Crawford against anybody. 154 South. That's just me. But I would definitely favor both those guys 2-1 against Pacquiao at this point in Pacquiao's career. 5-10 years ago, maybe not, but right now, yes. And I have a lot of respect for Pacquiao, believe me. But let's end it. Let's end it with that. Canelo tonight, rounds 1 through 4. I'll come on after the fight and give my thoughts on the fight, and let's see if I win some money. I'm out, man. Peace.